Mark, Michael, awesome to sit down with you guys today. We're going to talk a little bit of Rentokil-Terminix, shall we? Michael, you started your career at Rentokil actually with the predecessor company. What was that?
So that was Oliver Exterminating. Mm-hmm. Oliver was founded in Puerto Rico in 1956. Mm-hmm. I started with the business in 1990 as a technician in Caguas, Puerto Rico.
Okay. Technician. That's how you got your start. How did you get in pest control?
Randomly.
Bad grades in school?
Having some situation in school, needed to work, and was recommended by a friend to the business.
Yeah.
Started working as a residential technician.
Right on. Well, this is going to be an actual interesting discussion because, you know, this is the coming together of Rentokil and Terminix. We had that on the international level, and then, of course, we had it here in Puerto Rico. Mr. T-Bone.
Yes, sir.
You ran the Terminix franchise for Puerto Rico for how many years?
19 years, since 2004.
And if I remember correctly, you came down here in 1987?
1987.
You were like here on vacation and never returned, or?
I came on vacation and never went home.
Okay. This acquisition closed. I'm trying to remember when did this close? They all run together. It was in December.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Michael, you're running Rentokil down here, which I think a lot of folks maybe don't know, but Rentokil is largely a commercial business in the Caribbean for the most part, right?
Correct.
I mean, and what is the domestic, when you think about Puerto Rico, what does the domestic market look like as a whole? Like how much of this is residential? How much of this is commercial?
We're probably around 65% commercial, 35% residential.
And when you say residential, are you talking about like condo buildings as well, or would you consider that commercial?
I would consider that more commercial.
Okay.
But both. A lot of homeowners, homeowners associations. We do have, buildings, we service condominiums and such. But again, we have a strong, commercial footprint in pharmaceutical, food processing, manufacturing.
Under Oliver, you were running Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic.
Correct.
Would you say that, in the Caribbean, does pest control tend to be largely commercial, though, more so than what the folks in the U.S. mainland would expect?
I mean, both. There's a strong residential market here. We get a lot of job work, a lot of termite, lawn work out of the residential market. So, I mean, we can't underestimate the residential market, but obviously, have a very strong footprint in commercial. Again, in Puerto Rico, a lot of pharma, food processing, medical device. So there's a big commercial market as well.
Okay. So Rentokil and Terminix merged a few years ago. Terminix, the franchisor, is actually owned by Rentokil now, and almost all of those Terminix franchisees are continuing to operate as Terminix. It's my understanding that Rentokil would love to acquire all those franchisees over time. How successful they'll be, we'll find out, but that's what they ultimately would like to do. Mark, you've been in this business now since what year did you take over?
I started in '89 in the business. I worked for a local owner of really a commercial pest control company called Exterminators Extraordinary.
Okay.
And he also acquired the Sears franchise. So we ran the residential side. And I worked with him right up to 2006.
Was Sears doing once-a-year services here as well?
Yes, we were.
Oh, brother. How'd that work out?
Well, it ended up getting bought back because obviously Sears was bought by Terminix in probably 2002 or 2001. So they ended up buying the name back from us, so we got to keep the business.
Prior to Rentokil acquiring Oliver, did Rentokil have any presence down here in Puerto Rico? None at all.
No presence, no.
Okay. You guys aren't running Oliver anymore. It's all Rentokil.
Correct. We changed the legal entity as Rentokil of Puerto Rico, Inc., DBA Terminix now.
So I noticed you're wearing a Terminix shirt. So is everything DBA Terminix down here?
Correct.
Really?
Yes.
Even on the commercial side, everything is going to be Terminix?
Worse, since the way we purchased the business, it's one legal entity. So, yes.
Wow. How do you feel about that? Any confusion in the market?
Really, no. So Oliver was such a strong brand down here for so many years that we really co-branded everything with Rentokil, and now we're just tacking on Terminix to the name. Actually, I think maybe Terminix might catch the eye of some more people that know from the States more than Rentokil might. So I don't foresee it as a problem.
I've seen some Oliver trucks and it said like a Rentokil company or something on the bottom of them. And I even think, did I see those in the DR recently? Would I have seen them in the DR?
So in Dominican Republic, it's still operating as Oliver Exterminating.
I did see an Oliver truck in Santo Domingo.
Yeah.
Okay.
They haven't changed the legal entity over to Rentokil yet.
Okay. So the transaction closed in December. How has integration been?
No, very well. Really good team, really good management staff. Actually, we made some really good changes really quickly to up the productivity in the branches, using our style. The employees have really embraced the change, stepped up to our expectations. So, I mean, we're going into 5 months now, have seen some really strong, progression. So very happy.
You guys collectively now have a significant market share down here in Puerto Rico. How difficult then would it be for you to grow?
That's an interesting question. There's still room for us to grow, but we are on an island.
Yeah.
But the island has been in change, as you know, these past couple of years. So there's opportunity. Also, we have some competitive advantages that other companies just don't have. With our My Rentokil that we're be launching out now in beginning of the summer, we're in a good position to continue to grow.
Does Ecolab operate down here on the pest control side?
They do.
I never see Ecolab trucks. I've seen Terminix trucks. I've seen Rentokil trucks. I've never seen Ecolab trucks down here.
I see them. Their presence is noted.
Are they? But Puerto Rico in general is dominated by hundreds, if not thousands, of very small players.
Correct.
Got.
There's a couple thousand licenses out there in Puerto Rico. How many of them are actually operating? Nobody really knows. But yes, Puerto Rico is dominated with a lot of small operators.
The only time I've ever used professional pest control services in my entire life was with Mark's company. Remember when I first got here, I had ants in the kitchen and all that sort of jazz. And your technician came over and informed me that not only is he a pest control operator, he's about to be a Bitcoin millionaire. I hope that worked for him. I'm not sure if it did.
Haven't talked to him since. So he must have hit something.
He hit gold. He was a good kid and very professional service. I did like.
Yeah, he came to me from Terminix in Florida.
I thought it was New Jersey.
No, it was Florida he came from.
Okay.
Highly recommended.
Yeah.
But
he was a friendly guy.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy. But just had other aspirations.
Mm-hmm. So Mark, you came here in '87. You never really expected to live in Puerto Rico. You worked in pest control and you ultimately acquired this franchise that you grew for decades. I want to know what life was like here in Puerto Rico and what it was like to grow that franchise.
Very simple when I first got here. Very easy. No toll roads. Very simple life. I was very attracted to it. The palm trees, the nightlife, the food, the people. The culture was great.
Yeah.
The anticipation of my care packages from my family were amazing.
From Rockinchester?
From Rottenchester, yeah. Okay. So my mom would prepare monthly packages or every other month. This is before cell phones.
Yeah.
I used to run around with a pocket full of dimes just to make phone calls.
And long distance was expensive back then.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So times have changed a little bit. There was no Costco. There was no Sam's Club. was very homemade. It was very attractive to stay here.
But when you came down here, so you moved down here from Rochester, you didn't speak any Spanish when you came down here.
No, not a lick of Spanish. I actually thought Puerto Rico was in New York. So
In a lot of ways it is.
So when I got here, to my surprise, it was such a wonderful, warm place. I saw a lot of opportunities. I started in the hotel business, working in the pool area.
Yeah.
So it was great. I had a great time, but I found the business.
Were you
go
like
up and
applying
down.
lotion to tourists?
Oh, I had the pool boy syndrome, and went through the whole management there through a real good span of hotel people.
Yep.
I worked with a company called Williams Hospitality, Hugh Andrews and their whole crew. It was just a real team building experience. It was really great when quality was of the essence in building the staff. I frequently talked to hotel managers. They would come down and ask me questions. It was very good. It was a very good building block to understand the hospitality business.
From what I understand, obviously I wasn't there, but when you moved down here, English was not nearly as widely spoken as it is today.
Well, I was in a bubble. So I was in Condado, Isla Verde, and English was spoken very.
Because of the hotels.
It was hotels.
Yeah.
You might struggle if you got to the island, but somehow I always managed to communicate. People are really warm here.
Yeah.
Very, very warm.
So what was it like in those early years then running the franchise?
It was tough. I bought the franchise. It was bleeding, losing money immediately from the get-go. So I had customers that were $12, $13, $15 a month. So it was, I shed a lot of the bad customers. And then I steadily built the business, and I flopped it from a residential business like commercial to more commercial than residential, because that was my training. So I spent 20 years working for a local guy here. His name was Carl Amalia. Company was called Exterminator Extraordinary. And he not only trained me in the pest control business, but I trained in the indoor air quality business.
Okay.
The disaster restoration. That took me all over the world, from Mexico to Jamaica to Guam. Did a lot of work. Worked a lot during the hurricanes. But the meat and potatoes was always a pest control company. In '98, that company was bought by Ecolab. So we continued with our Sears operation for a few more years, and when the non-compete ended, we started back up in the pest control business and built it up probably 50% of what it was, specializing in the hotels and other industries.
The fact that the Terminix business here had a hospitality expertise, was that related to your past experience or no?
Of course.
Okay.
I brought all that business. When I bought the business was, in 2000, I think, if I remember the numbers, it was like 2.2 million, 2.3 million. When I bought it was 400,000, losing 250. So the business was trending down. The owner of the franchise, Phil, great guy, offered the business to me, and it was a tough negotiation, but I ended up running the business for him and helping him out, expanding in the Caribbean too.
And so, Michael, you guys focused more on the commercial residential side. Mark's business was more focused on the hospitality. So it seems like there was a good fit between the organizations.
Definitely good synergy for us. Hospitality has been a market that has eluded us for a while. And with Mark's know-how and team's know-how in hospitality, it's a great, match for us to learn that segment of the business. It's not really learning the segment, it's more having the contacts, knowing the people in the industry, which they obviously have in creating those relationships. So yes, that's been a great add-on for us.
The question I have for the two of you is, I moved down here in 2019. almost 2 years after Maria.
The first pictures now coming in from Puerto Rico after taking a direct hit. Hurricane Maria slamming into the island, and as you heard, one official saying the island is destroyed. Maria is the first Category 4 to hit there in nearly a century. 150-mile-an-hour winds ripping buildings apart, knocking out power everywhere. All of the electricity is out tonight. People ordered.
What was it like operating a business during Maria and, of course, the aftermath?
Is that for me or for?
As for the two, I want to hear both of you on this one.
Go ahead.
So, for me, I mean, first and foremost, the first thing you have to take care of is your employees. You know, so that Maria hit us, I think Wednesday night, if I'm not mistaken. So Thursday and Friday, I was not able to even reach the office. On Saturday, I was able to reach our office, and the roof had been ripped off part of it.
Roofs peeled from buildings, debris flying, structures collapsing. Up to 30 inches of rain in some areas, engulfing whole neighborhoods.
And we had major water damage on the second floor. So we had to clean that all out and start to make a makeshift operation on our first, first level. Very difficult, no availability of fuel, communications are down. Electricity, water, make sure that our technicians are all okay, making sure that everything, no damage. Thank God, knock on wood, we had no sustained problems as far as any of our employees. Thank God in their homes, neither had
No one
issues.
was missing a roof?
Nobody in any of the homes of employees, everybody was good, thank God. So as far as that goes, that went well. And once we buckled all that down, now we started to reach out to customers, reach out to commercial customers, see how they're operating, what can we do. We had satellite phones, so we were able to be in communication with them, gave them the number to the satellite phone so they could, talk to us when they had communication. Luckily, we have relationships here. We're doing this for a long time. I've been here for 34 years as well. Have a relationship with people in gas stations. We were open up, fuel pumps for our people. And, again, we were pretty much back at it 2 weeks after the storm. Pretty full blast.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you'd be surprised. Also, too, when you have a storm like that, you have customers that have issues. I had a person walk over to our office with a termite issue, I want to say about 4 days after, and we were able and went and serviced the job 4 or 5 days after the storm. So there was opportunity. We also had a meeting with our people, talked to everybody, discussing how difficult the situation was, but we had to, buck up and get things done. And as soon as we got back into play, it's going to be beneficial for everybody. And, the whole team engaged to it. And in our case, we wound up finishing on budget.
Really?
Even after the storm.
Within a year of Maria, over 500,000 people left the island. And that's an island of less than 4 million people to begin with. So a massive number. So that didn't impact you guys that significantly.
Not significantly.
What about you, Mark?
I pivoted. There was no pest control. Customers were shut down.
The emergency management director saying the entire island is destroyed. Many of these homes not built to withstand any hurricane, let alone a Category 4.
Obviously, there was a fallback on my services being in the hospitality business. People were still trying to gather themselves, but I gathered my people and I started doing what I do best is we started cleaning. So my disaster restoration business kicked in. A friend of mine that I met years back came down with resources, equipment, and his management. And we ended up cleaning and working for about a year and a half. And then I think at the peak, we were employing 400 people.
Wow.
And it was massive. We did malls, We did hotels. We did very well. And we partnered with a local guy here, another friend of mine,
Yep.
whose business was shut down. He was a hospitality business, so we had people. What you needed was bodies. And we provided everybody with a check, food and water every day, which was missing.
12,000 people heeding the call to get to shelters, including our hotel's ballroom. Evacuees moved off this arena floor due to safety concerns.
It was pretty wild. Because I remember at one point, you decide what you're going to go get: food, water, cash, gas, or ice. And some of those things would take all day. People don't realize we didn't have electricity in some areas for 3-4 months. So it was great. The Terminix people were great. Obviously, there was a storm that hit before in St. Thomas. And it was a store, it was a company branch, and the manager called me. And, hey, we're out of everything. We don't have anything. So I went down to Costco, pulled out my card and loaded my truck up. I put it on the ship. And when the ship was about ready to leave, we got hit with a storm. So he ended up getting the merchandise like 5 days after the hurricane hit here.
Did he send it back?
No, he was, I never heard a grown man cry like this, but he was very grateful. When you have nothing, and just to get that little gift from somebody who I don't know, never met, and he was there all alone. They just stuck him over there. He was grateful. And the Terminix people were great too. You know, obviously I had to fall off. Mac was great. Donna was great. Everybody at Terminix, they were great. But
I'm just curious, what sort of support did Terminix International provide to you guys down here during the aftermath of the hurricane?
well, one of the things they did, the franchises all gathered money, which blew my mind. They sent me a check, I don't know, for like $6,000 or $7,000. And the truth is, it wouldn't have changed my life. So I gave it to one of my guys because his house got totally wrecked. And then I gave him another like 15 grand to rebuild his house. But typical Puerto Rico, he quits about a year later and left for Florida. But you know something, it was a learning experience. I had a great team, made sure everybody was working, make sure everybody had food, water.
Yeah. I remember years ago, I think it was in 2016, 2017, I was working with the VDCI guys, which is now owned by Rentokil. The CDC issued a contract for Zika.
The Zika outbreak in 2016 hit Puerto Rico hard, infecting.
What was that like here with regard to tourism and just the general population? I mean,
So as far as the general population, I mean, we're so accustomed to deal with natural disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes, storms, dengue.
Yep.
So Zika was not a game changer for Puerto Ricans. Now, yeah, you got some negative press, as you're mentioning, and some people saying don't go to Puerto Rico, but I don't think it really impacted so much. Actually, Zika impacted us in a good way, is that we worked with the CDC on a contract, doing a Zika case.
Yeah, in regard to that contract, if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong, but I remember there were 3 parties to that contract. Rentokil was one, VDCI was another one, and I thought there was a third party to that CDC contract. Maybe it was just the 2.
No, so what they did was when it was happening, the CDC went out and they did like a general contracting bid, and that is having contractors who were going to be prepared for their call when the cases came up. So we did a kickoff meeting at the CDC in Atlanta, and they just basically told us to be ready. But there was nothing at that time. And soon after that, we started servicing all the pregnant women home in Puerto Rico. And then after that, we just started doing the AGO trap deployment project.
So the CDC paid to send you guys out to treat the homes of pregnant women in Puerto Rico, is that right?
Correct.
And how long, for over what time period?
I want to say, if memory serves, I want to say around 4 or 5 months.
Was free pest control enough of an incentive to increase the birth rate here?
We didn't see any spikes. But there was, it was island wide. So there was a decent amount of services being rendered.
Were there any confirmed birth defect situations here in Puerto Rico?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't remember of any deformities or, from Zika.
Okay.
Do you remember any?
I don't remember any. The only thing I saw was the hospitality business. Obviously, mosquito business is a costly business. And most of it isn't budgeted. It comes out of other budgets. So everybody thought we were doing a lot of work. We were doing micro work. Not a lot more.
Is there like a mosquito abatement district, or do they do municipal mosquito treatments here in Puerto Rico like they do in the U.S.?
They have a Puerto Rico vector control division,
Yeah.
and that works with the local government in conjunction with the CDC.
Okay. Michael, I understand from talking to your colleagues over the years that the Puerto Rican business tends to be particularly profitable compared to some other locations. Particularly, a lot of the folks I talk to in the U.S. are saying like Puerto Rico is super profitable, and that's related to density. And I'm curious as to why you think that is. Is it a density situation, or
No,
is it just your brilliant managerial skills? What is this?
No, so it definitely was a plan. So when I took over the business back in 2008, average route was averaging $55,000 to $6,000 a month. Yes, we did have some higher commercial routes, but few and far between. And we started focusing on selling, profitable business, that it's good for the customers at the right price and it's good for us. We had routes that were crisscrossing. We were not geographically routed.
Yep.
We didn't have technicians that were probably suited to be doing all the types of services that they should be doing. So we looked at that, and we continue to look at it. It's an ongoing process. It's not a destination. Right now, our minimum route is around $15,000 a month. I'm happy to say the routes in Terminix, all but one, have already reached those levels. We make sure that it's profitable for our technicians. It's good for our customers. We provide the highest quality service. We're very stickler on providing high quality service to our customers. So this way, you're not the lowest, pest control firm out there. As you had mentioned, we compete with a lot of, small operators, but that's not what we do. And this is something that we've, inbred in our culture over the years, and it's turned out to be very profitable, as you mentioned.
Are your techs universal techs that'll do residential and commercial, or do you separate that?
So we do have some that are based solely residential. They'll do job work, they'll do termite. We do have some hybrid routes, and then we have routes that are strictly commercial.
And what do you guys see from a termite activity perspective in Puerto Rico? Is this largely subterranean termites here, or do you have drywood as well?
Drywood, not as much. A lot more arborean and subterranean. And we do a lot of bird work here as well. We've also distinguished ourselves, even in Rentokil, in our market, as one of the areas that does a high concentration of bird work as well. We do very good, high quality bird services.
Were you doing any bird work?
I did some bird work.
Okay.
Did some bird work. Didn't concentrate on it.
For termite, are you guys just doing liquid treatments down here, or are you doing baiting as well?
Both.
Both. What's your poison?
So Centricon is not registered in Puerto Rico. So we're using the advanced bait system that's been very beneficial for us as a bait system.
And you guys were you doing baiting as well?
I was never a big termite baiting guy. I was always a liquid guy. Baiting has its place. Obviously, in certain situations, we would do baiting, but I was strictly a liquid guy. I believed in it. It worked, 100%, 95% of the time.
Michael, you used to be tied into the U.S. You used to work with guys like Ron Kemzelski up in the Northeast. Now you report over to the Europeans, separate from the rest of North America. I mean, what were some of the nuances or differences between doing pest control down here in Puerto Rico versus what those guys in the U.S. are facing?
It's pretty much the same. I haven't seen that. I guess the nuances would be operational structure in North America. Like they have position like TSMs in North America, which we don't have in Latam. We have technical support, but it's a little bit different. I would say those type of things that are more internal. But as far as the service that we're providing and what we're doing for the customer is seamless.
Right now, from a Rentokil structuring perspective, is Puerto Rico considered Latin America?
Correct.
Okay. And who heads up Latin America?
Alain Van Liftejub.
Okay. And he's in Belgium.
He is in Belgium.
Okay. Is Rentokil currently operating, if I think about South America, the actual continent, is Rentokil operating in all countries in South America?
And we're not in all South America. We're obviously not in Venezuela, not in Cuba, but the bulk of the rest of South America, Caribbean, Central America, I think we're not 100%, but like 90%, 95%.
I see. Okay. I want to talk to you too about Rentokil's acquisition of Terminix Puerto Rico. Now, the funnest part of the transaction for me was, I've been doing this like 20 years now. I've been through hundreds of these things. And the Rentokil guys, like sometimes they'll send 4 or 5 people out on a deal. But it's like if you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they sent Alex Nye out by himself. Sometimes he's got one other person. No one wants to go on these sorts of trips. But lo and behold, we do the Rentokil-Terminix merger here in Puerto Rico. And those guys, maybe they sent 12, 13 people. It was like vacation time, right? Everyone volunteered to come down. So you guys had a massive crew that came down here. You brought people in from Chile, North America. It was a big team. But let's talk about how this whole thing unfolded. Why did you decide it was time for you to sell?
Well, the year before, I went to our annual franchise meeting in Memphis. It was kind of a little bit more of the same. Obviously, Rentokil was in charge now.
Yep.
John Meyer was there, a bunch of people. And I was approached, would you consider selling? And of course, I said, if you play the right music, I'll dance. I just saw the transition of Terminix over the years. It was a dilution of personnel for me because it used to be a grand opportunity every year to go meet our friends.
Yeah.
And we used to get together and have real family time. And that last meeting was kind of...
Well, you at least used to get good food at those
really
things, right?
good food. And not just one night.
Yeah.
But the year before, there was the setup when we found out that they sold the company. We knew I kind of figured they were selling the company because they put us at the rooftop of the hotel for a banquet rather than take us down to Beale Street for one of those blues nights. I ended up not eating, and I ended up going down to Beale Street and having a meal. So, yeah, it was a pretty eye-awakening. And the writing was on the wall. And it was interesting, the whole process. They came through with your help and Franco's help. It was great. It was a great experience. And obviously, they wanted to make a big impression to the Terminix franchises to make it smooth, and I think that was to my advantage.
Yeah, I mean,
the first one through.
I know that Terminix International has danced with many of you guys over the years, not gotten anything done, but I do think that you know, the UK team over at Rentokil really wanted to set some good examples of how
Right.
this could take place. And, you know, Michael, for you, here you are running a business. You've pretty much running this thing autonomously. You guys are cooking with cash. You're doing good numbers. And then all of a sudden now it's time to merge these two businesses. How did you look at this when you were first told about it?
So just to jog Mark's memory, Mark had reached out to me, or I think we bumped into each other and we talked about, you know, going on having lunch. And, you know, Mark and I had a discussion and he was telling me that he was thinking about, you know, he was starting the thought and the process in his head of selling the business.
Yeah.
And if I would be interested. And he had also mentioned to me that he was thinking about reaching out to you to broker the deal. And I said, yeah, that sounds good. We are interested. And so the ball started rolling from there.
And this was years ago. I remember this.
So when the call came in through Alex and his team and through Roberto Sanchez from our acquisition in LATAM, you know, I was already aware of what was going on.
yeah.
So, I mean, and I've known Mark for a long time, for 30 plus years. So actually you know, it was in my scopes as one of my goals of one of the businesses I wanted to acquire. So it worked.
Do you look at other businesses down here?
Of course.
Yeah. How many deals have you done since Oliver was acquired by Rentokil? Like since you became a standalone Rentokil business?
This is our first deal.
Okay.
This is our first deal, but I am currently looking and having some conversations.
Okay. So Mark, I want to hear your take on the acquisition.
The big show. Amazing.
Go.
Well, we show up. Obviously, we have everything in place, and we show up at the Marriott. And
This is on announcement day?
this is on the
Due diligence.
due diligence. So they rented a room, and on the room is Project Boricua,
Okay.
which was pretty amazing to see.
Were the hotel folks confused by that?
I actually used to service that account up to probably 2007 or 8. I lost it, but the Ecolab. So, and I actually did some services there back in, I had a contract there doing some outsourcing back in the early 2000s. So I knew the people there, a lot of people. So it was surreal. My wife and myself were pretty like, is this going to happen? And we walked into the meeting, and of course, we weren't expecting the group. I obviously knew Mike, I obviously knew Franco, but boy, they had a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not just in presence, but also on screen, with a lot of questions and very intimidating at the moment, but having the 40,000 foot view, you obviously understand what's necessary and when you're acquiring a business. So it got tense for a little while, a lot of questions, but we made it through it. Very interesting. Very interesting.
How did your folks deal with you making the announcement that after all these years you'd made the decision to sell it to Rentokil?
That's the hard part. You love your business to a point, and if you love it too much, it's really not your business. It's your baby. So I was at the point I didn't love it as much as a baby. And I realized if I didn't do it at this point, that my chances were limited down the road. Because the options for sales, as you explained to me, were, you know, smaller. And I was hoping that they'd come with a good number and a good opportunity, which they did a great job. But the people themselves, you got to remember, it's 19 years. And what I've learned working with Michael is I ran my business on loyalty versus productivity. And they took it hard. Michael's runs his on productivity versus the loyalty. And obviously, they're doing more productivity right now than they were doing with me, which is amazing. So I made sure they had things set up. Michael's team was great. Make sure they had all their benefits in place. They all had tenure, which is huge in acquisitions. You know, sometimes they come in and go, you, and you, you're out. You, see you tomorrow. It was great. Could have been a little less, I guess, showtime, maybe, but I got to tell you, it worked out perfect. I met a lot of great people. What the cool part about this process is that I met a lot of people that weren't just Rentokil. They were from all walks of life, all different companies. Like Michael, he wasn't Rentokil. Terminix, other acquisitions. That kind of eased my mind, realizing these people know what it feels like, what's going to happen.
Michael, you came in yourself through an acquisition. So how would you say, what was the difference between when you were acquired back in the day versus how you acted when you acquired Terminix?
You know, I think that's a really good question because, you know, since I had gone through that, I really wanted to give Mark that peace of mind that, like, at first it's intimidating, but we're just really, what we're asking you is to understand the business. It's not judgmental. You know, we want to know what we need to look for so that when we come into the business, you know, obviously for us to get to the point at this, we're interested in buying the business.
Yeah.
So that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is, you know, looking what our next steps. What are the first items that jump out at me and tell me these are things that you really have to do quickly, you know, to get into compliance, what we do at a corporate level. And then, I mean, other than that, it's Mark, come here, chill out.
You know, Michael, I know that you're in a small little microcosm here of the Rentokil world, but what's been your take on the Rentokil-Terminix acquisition thus far? I mean, I guess your only exposure to it is this deal here.
My experience with Terminix has been, you know, with Mark and his operation. So I'm really still getting my feet wet, you know, with the name, talking to our customers about the merger. But again, like I had mentioned to you before, a lot of people, you know, we have a lot of customers that come from the States or live in the States and they know the Terminix name. So I think there's nothing but opportunity for us for using the brand.
You've been a part of Rentokil since the acquisition in 2015, and I've been dealing with Rentokil for almost 20 years. And there's been, you know, the one thing that's interesting about Rentokil North America is there's tremendous stability in management. A lot of these guys have been around for a long time. One of our mutual friend, Ron Kinzelski, and Ron's been around, I think, over 25 years. He started in college, I think, or right after college.
So Ron was from the legacy Rentokil in North America. And so I had the opportunity to work with him when we became part of the Northeast market after the acquisitions. Ron's a great leader, had a really great opportunity, you know, working with him and bouncing ideas off each other. I mean, really good opportunity with Ron. Nothing but great things to say.
When did Rentokil take Puerto Rico out of North America?
When the acquisition of Terminix was announced.
Yep.
So that's when the shift was made, and I started reporting into Latin America 2 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay. You know, Mark, I'm not used to sitting here with you and not hearing something entertaining. So I'm going to have to ask you, what's one of your wilder memories of pest control in Puerto Rico? Because it's got to be an entertaining field of business.
So, it's a good question. My fondest memory, I just started in the company. This is 1989. My boss gave me a 1975 Mazda B2000 truck. It was gray, standard. It had 240 air conditioning.
What's that?
You roll down two windows and you go 40 miles an hour. So I went down to the local hardware store, which was called Marino's at the time. I don't know if you remember it. And I bought 4 cans of silver paint and I spray painted the whole car. And I nicknamed it the Silver Bullet.
Okay.
What was unique?
You spray painted the whole vehicle?
The whole vehicle with 4 cans of cyan paint. The funny part is, whenever you pop the clutch, it would backfire. So I got a kick out of that. I would, in traffic, I'd rev it up, I'd pop the clutch, and bang! Well, one day it caught me. I was in the Manias Tunnel, stuck in traffic, and I revved the truck, and I popped the clutch, and bang, and I proceeded to throw my hand up like this. Well, as soon as I got out of the tunnel, I see this Ford Bronco pull up with two guys in it, and the guys yelling at me, pointing like this. I didn't understand Spanish at the time. And I looked and I waved, and of course I used my Spanish, hola. We went up a little further. He pulled out some type of ID and was yelling, pull over. And I'm like, hola again. Next thing I know.
It was an unmarked vehicle?
It was an unmarked vehicle. Next thing I know, he's got a badge with his 357 going pull over. I go, okay. So I pull up, going towards Plaza Las Americas, where there's a little bridge right there, and I get over on the side, and I proceed to get yanked out of my car. And this is back in the day. I don't know. We used to wear these one-piece suits. Mine happened to be blue that day. And they threw me on the ground, handcuffed me, and I heard them in their Spanish, and obviously I have a little instinct with the Spanish, and the guy was saying, ¿Dónde está la pistola? Where's the gun? And when I picked up on that, I said to the cop that was standing on me with his knee on my back, going, no pistola, carro, chitty chitty bang bang. So they proceeded to lift me up when they didn't find an firearm, and we all laughed about it. I said, the car backfires, you know, and learned a lesson. No more backfire in the car.
Well, listen, fellas, it's always great to chat with you guys. I'm glad we were able to go out on the boat this weekend, and I wish you both the very best, and particularly you, Michael.
Thank you. Pleasure talking to you guys as well.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mark, for being here with me as well.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
You too, Mike. Thank you.